Over the course of making metal movies for 10 years now, the one band that feels closest to my heart and a band that really feels like brothers is Lamb of God. When we interviewed them for Headbanger's Journey in 2004, they were just on the cusp of breaking, and we were just on the cusp of breaking, and neither of us knew it. And so when I watched this old interview with Lamb of God, it's like watching an old family home video. I'm proud of these guys. They deserve everything they've achieved, and damn, we were young. Okay. We're with Mark and Randy of Lamb of God in Toronto. It's August 29th.
Which one's Mark? Mark. Okay.
We good? Yep. Okay. So I'd just actually like to start by asking you guys about this whole new wave of American thrash metal thing. I know you've been asked before, but historically in terms of metal, you know, this is seen as a new movement or a new something in the history of metal. I don't know, Mark. Tell me about how you feel about being cast as part of this movement, and do you see yourself as part of something new?
I do. I think that to me it's very akin to the Bay Area thrash, you know, of the late '80s. It just seemed like all of a sudden there was this scene that kind of blew up and came from, you know, the warehouses in the underground and became sort of, you know, commerce for a minute, you know, and I feel like that's what's going on here. You know, it's a very organic group of bands. The bands that are being lumped into this sort of new genre are like us and Shadows Fall and Kill Switch, and God Forbid, and I don't really think we sound like those bands, but we're metal and so are they, and the roots are similar foundations for all the bands. So I think that's probably why the ties are made.
Randy, I want to ask you about some of the topics that Lamb of God talk about in its music, namely things like the American South and especially religion seem to come up again and again in a lot of your music.
Well, Mark has put it before throughout the history of metal, religious iconography, you know, Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, everything. It's always been sort of an intrinsic part of it. The American South, for me, I've written several songs about being from the South because there's a lot of misconceptions about it. They think we're all down there wearing Ku Klux Klan hoods and stuff like that. The South is a very, I don't even know how to describe the South. It's like, it can be very provincial, but we aren't as dumb as most people think. You know, religion, actually, I don't write that much about religion. Mark has dealt with that topic a little bit more.
Randy and I both write lyrics for the band, and mine tend to be more sort of political and spiritual, you know, simply like what you were talking about. To me, those are the themes that have always run through like the best metal, you know, like Slayer had the religious, you know, imagery, and Megadeth was doing the political stuff, and Metallica was kind of doing a little of both back when they were actually a metal band. And so I don't know. It's those are the songs I listened to coming up, learning what metal was. So it's, you know, when you go to write, that's kind of the first place you go. Although on the new record that's coming out, we definitely got more personal. You know, there's songs about things that aren't political or religious. They're just about, you know, our lives, really.
Yeah, things that generally distress us.
Something we're looking at too historically is the extent to which politics has been part of metal. I mean, one part of metal is always said, you know, metal should not be about politics, and then you get the Megadeths and the other bands that always talked about politics. I don't know, Mark. Do you think that metal should be a place to talk about political issues?
Yeah, I think any sort of you know, metal's an art form. It certainly is to me. It's one of the ways I try and be creative, you know. And you know, there's art has always involved protest, you know. It's not essential that it be, you know, a protest, but it's always been there, you know. Even, you know, beyond metal, you know, George Harrison and Taxman, you know, writing political songs, you know, and some of the Motown stuff that's, you know, addressing, you know, social issues, and
Marvin Gaye,
Curtis Mayfield, Marvin Gaye, yeah. So I mean, like, even outside of metal, music has always, you know, dabbled in the political. It's just the way artists are talking about what's on their mind, and, you know, if you're paying attention to the world around you, politics is relevant.
Yeah, someone asked me the other day in an interview, and they're like, you guys write some pretty political stuff. I mean, are you always at rallies and doing this and that and the other? And I'm like, well, I really don't have any time to go do that stuff. However, I do have, as it seems right now, a rather large vehicle to express my views. And I hate to use the term responsibility of the artist, but if you are an artist and you do have a valid point to make, then use the vehicle at your disposal. You know, Britney Spears has nothing to say. She's not an artist, she's a hack. You know, people who play real music and who are passionate about it, if they have something true to say, they'll get it out there, you know, and that's what we try and do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it has to be all doom and gloom either. I mean, I think you can write really great songs about things that are positive as well, but heavy metal's pretty conducive to yelling and screaming about, you know, things that make you angry. And
one thing we're also looking at is, historically, metal has always been cast as being working class or blue collar music, and I don't know which guy in the band, but I read in a previous interview that, you know, that we're making blue collar music or something to that effect. I mean, do you see yourselves as kind of coming from a working class kind of ethic?
Yeah. I mean, you eat shit for 8 years before you get signed to a label.
To get to where we've gotten, like, whatever, in a music industry context, like, you know, you have to wash dishes or drive nails, or, you know, I was a roofer for six or 7 years.
I roofed for 3. Yeah.
And, you know, just to have a job that enables you to go out on the road for a month and come back and still have a job, you know, you're not going to have some cushy office job that lets you do that.
Do you think metal is it working class music, do you think?
I think it appeals to the working class more
I'm sure
so
there's plenty
than
of rich people into metal. I mean, Jack Osbourne ain't working class, and he obviously
yeah, but
knows
he's
a lot.
Ozzy's kid. Come on,
fair
bro.
enough.
I mean, come on,
dude. All those, like, I don't know. There's a lot of rich kids into metal. All those Massachusetts shows and Orange County. You know what I'm saying? Like,
they're different over there in Orange County.
I think people like metal whether they're rich or poor. I think it's just a music, you know.
We're exploring the whole violence thing because metal's always been, you know, tagged as being very violent. Like, I'm interested in what, you know, what are you trying to convey?
Where we live, it's very different than my perception of here. I've only been here a few times. I've never spent much time here, but where we live, when we spend a lot of time sitting on front porches, drinking beer with our buddies or whatever, listening to music and stuff. And on a Saturday night, you know, you hear guns. You just hear them, and it's not even really what was that? Was that a gun? It's like they're shooting again. It's Saturday night, you know.
So it inevitably becomes part of, I guess, what Lamb of God is about.
It becomes part of the landscape.
It becomes part of your psyche.
Yeah.
Do you see that as something that separates metal from other styles of music today, or?
I would say, if somebody didn't know about metal, I would just hope that I would say, don't assume that it's just a bunch of dumbasses banging their heads, because there's a lot of those, but, you know, there's also people that are into it for, you know, more sophisticated stimulation, you know, for, you know, thought and release.
And no, we don't all worship the devil, by the way.
Right.
What do you worship then?
Myself.